For Russia to fully occupy Donetsk region, it would have to sacrifice at least another 800,000 soldiers. This is the opinion of President Volodymyr Zelensky. According to him, the occupying army cannot hold out that long, and freezing the war along the front line would already be a huge concession on Ukraine's part.
Russia wants us to abandon the entire Donbas. Since the beginning of this war, they have not achieved a single victory, while we Ukrainians understand perfectly well the price the Russian army pays for every meter, every kilometer of this land. They do not count the people who are dying. The Russians need a break. Volodymyr Zelensky, President of Ukraine.
There were 133 combat clashes on the front line over the past day. The Pokrovsk direction remains one of the hottest spots. Our defenders repelled 29 assaults in the areas of Hrodenke, Pokrovsk, Kotlin, Molodetske, Filia, and towards Vilna. In the Huliaipol sector, there were 17 attacks by the occupiers. The enemy has become more active in the Sloviansk sector, where they tried to advance 13 times. In the Kostiantinivka sector, the occupiers assaulted our positions 10 times. There were 6 attacks in the Lyman direction. We will discuss the situation on the battlefield in more detail with Ruslan Muzychuk. Ruslan Muzychuk is the spokesperson for the National Guard of Ukraine. Greetings to you. A very good morning to you, Mr. Ruslan. Mr. Ruslan, I can't hear you.
Good morning. I can hear you.
Oh no, everything is fine. Mr. Ruslan, let me ask you right away about the operational situation. What is it like now in those sectors where the National Guard is holding the defense? Are you observing an intensification of assault actions by the enemy?
Well, overall, if we analyze the month of January, the number of assaults, in general, the enemy's activity has somewhat decreased compared to what it was in December. Because in December, as we remember, and in November as well, there were sometimes more than 150, even over 200 combat engagements. Now, the number of assault actions, including over the past day, now it's around 100, a little over 100. But the main enemy strike, once again, is focused on the Pokrovsk direction, and now also on the Huliaipol and Kostiantinivka directions. It is precisely here, in this sector, that the enemy is making these persistent attempts to strike and break through our defenses. As for the National Guard units specifically, over the past day, they have successfully repelled 21 combat engagements, and 14 of those encounters were in the Pokrovsk direction. Overall, we see that the enemy is now placing a very strong emphasis on the use of drones and unmanned systems. As for infantry groups, of course, this is, again, just one of the components they are currently deploying. However, it is important to note that these specific groups of infantry soldiers are currently not being utilized in such large numbers across all directions as they were, for example, back in December or November. This shift is due both to the challenging prevailing weather conditions and overall to the current level of manning within the enemy's units. And what else I can specifically note is that over these past several days, the enemy has been deploying their artillery assets in a significantly more active manner. In certain areas, this use has even increased, if we look closely at the numbers, by a margin of approximately 15%. I'm talking here specifically about the defensive positions of the National Guard units. This may again be related to weather conditions, because where there is poor visibility, where there is precipitation, and even, let's say, in areas where it is generally difficult for UAV operators to operate, artillery is used as a rather effective means. Therefore, I can say that enemy artillery is currently operating quite actively in the Lyman, Kupiansk, and Pokrovsk directions.
Mr. Ruslan, is the enemy also using heavy armored combat vehicles for fire support right now?
Yes, we can clearly see that the enemy forces, especially toward the end of 2025 and even throughout January, have begun to use armored vehicles, sometimes even more actively than before, to support their ground assaults. And regarding the specific numbers for tanks, for example, in the month of January alone, the enemy lost a total of 137 tanks. This is, in fact, the highest recorded figure we have seen since May of 2025. So we can clearly see that it's not always just massive frontal assaults. But in order to support their offensives in these extremely difficult conditions, and given the current rapid pace of infantry use, the enemy is still starting to deploy both armored vehicles and heavy tanks to reinforce their overall efforts. I can say that, again, just in the single month of January, Our National Guard units successfully destroyed and damaged 30 tanks. That's quite a significant number of enemy assets, even when compared directly to the enemy's peak activity during the summer and autumn campaigns.
And what factors are currently making defense the most difficult right now? Is it still mainly the enemy drones, the unpredictable weather, or the intensity of the attacks?
Well, once again, first and foremost, of course, in harsh weather conditions, which are unfavorable not only for offensive operations, as we sometimes see from the enemy's own dynamics, but also for defense. Of course, but again, right now we see that a staggering 80% of crucial and high-value targets on the battlefield are being destroyed specifically by drones. And here we're talking both about kill zones and the enemy's extensive use of drones at operational depth. That is, let's say it includes reconnaissance at the battalion tactical level, disrupting and striking at their logistics networks, and of course, the precise targeting of heavy military equipment. So it's not just about destroying positions directly on the front line, but also about systematically striking and disrupting supply lines, which in turn also causes a wide range of serious logistical difficulties, sometimes even very significant ones in holding the defense in extremely challenging areas, such as, for example, the critical Pokrovsk operational direction.
Mr. Ruslan, what other specific indicators of technological evolution in Russian drones along the active line of contact do you observe? We've talked about range, but what about their speed, autonomy, and their resilience against sophisticated electronic warfare systems?
Well, I can certainly say that overall, throughout 2025, the specialized drone systems component itself has been developing, expanding, and evolving at a remarkably fast pace. So it's not just about the growing variety of drones anymore, but about the diversity of tactics in combining their use with artillery, reconnaissance, and other types of drones. In particular, this is clearly visible in our drone system units and operational divisions. We also see that the enemy is currently placing a very significant emphasis on developing their own unmanned aerial vehicles and on developing the specific units and, let's say, the highly skilled crews who are responsible for operating these unmanned aerial vehicles. That is, it's not just about specific individual military units, like motorized rifle regiments and other similar units using drones, but rather entire units are being formed that are dedicated to professionally operating drones. And the enemy is trying to provide maximum possible funding to find new technological solutions. And in this way, we see that such units are quite actively trying to be present in difficult sections of the front, reinforcing both tank and motorized rifle units, as well as other units in order, so to speak, to break through the defense and again, to deliver targeted strikes on the logistics of Ukraine's defense forces.